I understand you went with the Queen on her visit to Beijing a few years ago. So let's begin with that. There is outrage that the Chinese Vice President, Han Zheng, has been invited to the coronation because he's the man that oversaw literally the destruction of free speech, free media and democracy in Hong Kong, in breach, of course, of a treaty that we signed with China.
Yes, Nigel, you're absolutely right. There's a real game of Chinese checkmate going on here, because the king, when he was Prince of Wales, was not exactly shy in his views about the Chinese. He described the leadership on one occasion as a ghastly lot of old waxwork, and which of course didn't help his mother, who was about to make a state visit in 1986 to China, which, as you say, I went on, and then the Duke of Edinburgh put the cap on it by referring to people with slitty eyes. You may remember that too. And of course, when President Xi came to this country in 2015, the Prince of Wales, as he then was, went AWOL. He didn't turn up at any of the big receptions and the parties. He made his views known because he's a pal of the Dalai Lama, and he thinks very, very strongly against the Chinese takeover of Tibet. And no doubt he was right in that. Now we've got the situation, because nothing happens very much in China by accident. I can promise you that at the top level. So they're sending along this Mr. Hardman, the man who's behind the crackdown, the man who's been the big enemy of democracy against the treaty that we signed when Prince Charles, as he then was there, and the colony was handed back to China. So it's their saying, we're sending the hard man to you because that's what we want to do. Of course, the decision to invite him wasn't the king's. It's the government's decision. Every single country with whom this country has diplomatic relations, except North Korea and Iran, has been invited. I mean, it's up to that.
Yes. No, I can see that. I can see for diplomatic reasons. Now, the Northern Irish row, of course, is that Lady Pamela Hicks, who was there and took part in the Queen's coronation, and whose father, Lord Mountbatten, was murdered by the IRA, is not invited, but Michelle O'Neill is invited, the Sinn Fein boss in Northern Ireland, whose own family have been very, very linked to Republican violence. And yet, as First Minister, when she said she's going to represent the people of Northern Ireland, to whom this coronation means a lot, do you know what, Michael Cole? Actually, that made sense to me.
I agree with you, Nigel. Sinn Fein, it means ourselves alone, we alone. But we have the party reaching out its hand in the person of Michelle O'Neill, and I applaud her for it, because she is the head of the leading party in Stormont, and I'm sure she's had to struggle with her conscience about that. I'm sure she's a sincere Republican, but she's also leading all the people of that province. And if there were a vote today, I bet you a majority of them would want to continue the union with this country, because there are so many benefits from them doing so. You know, Nigel, I spent many weeks, many months, many days in Northern Ireland. I was beaten up, actually in a place called Downing Street, which is just off the Shankill Road. I was beaten up by Protestant thugs and patched up by Catholic nuns in the Martyr Hospital. So I think I know a little bit about Northern Ireland. And what I would say, and I felt at the time, that there was no need for 3,000 people to die, often in horrible circumstances and terrible atrocities, with women being tarred and feathered and things like that. It was appalling, because the ballot box was always there. They didn't need the bullet. This wasn't a dictatorship that had to be overthrown by force of arms. The proof of that is that Sinn Féin is now the majority party in Northern Ireland. They did it by the ballot box at the end.
No,
so
I agree.
I think we must applaud Michelle O'Neill for doing that. And listen, this is the time for reconciliation. And, you know, one of in fact, probably the most important speech of the Queen's reign was delivered in Westminster Hall. You know the one I'm going to talk about, in the Silver Jubilee. And she said, I cannot forget the fact that I was crowned the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. What she was saying to the politicians who were saying at the time, because of the terrible violence, that Northern Ireland should be sort of hived off as a Protestant statelet, she was saying, no.